Imagine a typical morning commute, people heading to work, students on their way to school, when suddenly, everything changes in an instant. What happened on September 18, 2013 in Barrhaven, Ottawa, is more than just a tragic accident. It's a shocking reminder of how quickly life can be turned upside down.
A double-decker bus drove through a closed crossing barrier and into an oncoming train.
Everyone had shouted, "Stop, stop!" And then as I looked up, the bus was coming into contact with the gate, and the front of the bus, it all impacted at once.
In today's video, we're diving into the heart-stopping moments leading up to the devastating collision between a city bus and a speeding train. What went wrong? Could it have been prevented? Stay with us as we uncover the chilling details and the aftermath that still haunts a community. Before we dive into the background of this tragic train disaster, I invite you to subscribe this channel and hit the notification bell so you don't miss any of our train disaster documentaries. Barrhaven is a neighborhood with 103,234 people as of 2021, located just outside Ottawa in southeast Canada, in the province of Ontario. It's about 8.7 miles south of Ottawa and 106 miles west of Montreal. Barrhaven is connected to Ottawa's public transit system, including the Transitway, which is a network of bus lanes on city streets and dedicated roads used only by buses and emergency vehicles. One of the stations on the Southwest Transitway line is Fallowfield, a combined station for both the bus network and Via Rail, the state-run company in charge of Canadian passenger train operations. Buses leaving Fallowfield Station head north, following the parallel Woodruff Avenue, and cross the train tracks about 400 meters from the station. Via Rail train Thusser 51 was a passenger train traveling from Ottawa to Toronto. It had 4 single-level passenger cars, known as LRC-type cars, and was pulled by a VIA locomotive numbered 915. It's a 4-axle diesel locomotive 21 meters long and weighs 121.7 metric tons. It can reach speeds of up to 110 miles per hour. The train carried 108 passengers, 4 attendants, and 2 experienced crew members, a driver and a conductor, both with over 15 years of experience. At the same time, OC Transpo bus number 8017 was running on Express Route 76 from Barrhaven to downtown Ottawa. This bus, known as an Alexander Dennis Enviro 500, is a double-decker with 3 axles, designed for city and regional travel. The buses used by OC Transpo are 12.8 meters long and 4.2 meters high. They have 82 seats and can hold 25 standing passengers on the lower deck. While there are handrails on the upper deck, standing is not allowed when the bus is moving. These buses have several surveillance cameras inside and outside, with the footage displayed on a screen near the driver's seat. Bus number 8017 was delivered a year before the accident and had traveled 26,408 miles without any maintenance issues. On the morning of September 18, 2013, OC Transpo bus Shugi 8017 arrived at Fallowfield Station at 8:46:24 a.m. Passengers were getting on and off through the bus's 2 side doors. One of the passengers, a cyclist, took a moment to load his bike onto the rack at the front of the bus, which delayed him from boarding right away. By 8:46:53 a.m., the rear door was closed, but passengers were still entering through the front door. The driver asked 4 passengers who were standing near the door to move back behind the yellow line on the floor, which marked the driver's area. He also checked the upper deck through the surveillance feed and informed everyone that there were still seats available upstairs. One passenger decided to go upstairs to look for a seat, but couldn't find any. He let the others know, but stayed upstairs, choosing to stand and hold onto a handrail. Meanwhile, the cyclist was talking to the driver about whether there were any available seats on the upper deck. As the last passengers finished boarding, the lower deck was completely full, with 13 people standing. There was still 1 empty seat on the upper deck, and 1 person was standing at the top of the stairs. The bus left Fallowfield Station at 8:47:27 a.m., running 4 minutes late. As it entered the northbound lane of the transitway, some passengers standing at the front were still discussing whether it was safe to move to the upper deck while the bus was moving. The cyclist also moved closer to the windshield, possibly wanting to keep an eye on his bike. At 8:47:57 a.m., the bus began making a left turn toward the level crossing, just as the crossing came fully into view, 402 feet away. The crossing lights were already flashing, and the barriers were down, according to the crossing's data logger. Survivors later recalled that around this time, people began shouting at the driver to stop as the bus was approaching the closed level crossing at about 42 Adri Midproik. It's unclear whether the driver heard them over the noise of the bus, but surveillance footage shows him shifting his focus from the monitor to the road ahead and then slamming on the brakes. At 8:48 a.m., the bus crossed into the level crossing, breaking through the southern barrier while sliding with the brakes fully applied. It entered the tracks at 42 Mempich just as the oncoming train reached the transitway. The train traveling at 43 Mempich collided with the bus corner to corner, despite the train driver having triggered an emergency stop a few seconds earlier. The train's impact tore off a large triangular section of the bus's front end, from the right-hand corner to just behind the driver's seat on the left. The collision completely destroyed the front portion of both decks of the bus. Debris from the bus was scattered, with some pieces getting caught under the train's wheels, causing it to derail. The bus didn't move much from the point of impact, as the train sliced right through it. The train, with its locomotive and all 4 cars derailed, came to a stop 210 meters beyond the crash site. The bus driver and 4 passengers were killed instantly, and a 5th passenger died later at the hospital. 34 passengers survived, with 9 suffering severe injuries. Passengers and drivers from 2 buses right behind bus, the 8017, were the first to reach the crash site. They immediately rushed to the wreckage and started giving first aid, just minutes before the emergency responders arrived. Meanwhile, passengers from the derailed train were guided off by their attendants and gathered at the station. Luckily, no one from the train needed medical help. By 10:50 a.m., all surviving passengers from both the bus and the train were accounted for, and those who needed medical care were taken to nearby hospitals. Surviving passengers from the bus told investigators that it seemed like the driver either didn't notice the train at all or realized it too late. Passengers on the upper deck mentioned that they expected the bus to stop any minute. Investigators found skid marks behind the bus's rear wheels, just 3 inches long, which became fully visible once the bus was moved. These marks showed that the driver did try to brake, but it was tragically too late. The 45-year-old driver had been employed since 2005 after passing a clean medical exam and had a solid work history. In the 2 years before the accident, he had only 4 disciplinary points on his record, which was typical for someone in his role with his workload. In the year leading up to the accident, he worked a total of 407 shifts, 67 of which were driving the Enviro 500 bus. During these shifts, he passed the accident site 16 times heading southbound and 44 times northbound, as he often filled in on different routes. It's unclear how often he encountered the crossing closed, but since he was running 4 minutes late on the day of the accident, it's assumed the crossing was usually open when he passed. Medical records revealed that the driver had been diagnosed with a Dutan-type color vision defect, commonly known as color blindness. This condition makes it difficult to distinguish between red and green colors and can also reduce the brightness of red by up to 10%. However, this condition did not prevent him from working as a bus driver at OC Transpo, as traffic lights were still easily recognizable, and the positions of red and green lights could be memorized if needed. The report also mentioned that the driver was wearing reddish-brown sunglasses at the time of the accident. These sunglasses were popular for reducing glare from the road and other vehicles. The tint of these glasses absorbs more green and blue light but doesn't affect red, making red lights and surfaces stand out more. A toxicology report and related tests showed no signs of a medical emergency, no trace of drugs or alcohol, and no sign of the diabetes medication the driver took during flare-ups, indicating that his blood sugar levels had been stable in the days before the accident. His work and rest schedule was also found to meet required standards. With a medical emergency ruled out, no technical defects found, and the possibility of a purposeful act deemed extremely unlikely, the only realistic explanation left was a momentary distraction. The Enviro 500 bus model, made in the UK where it is primarily used, is designed to meet UK laws that require extensive video coverage both inside and outside the bus. OC Transpo retained this camera system for their buses in Canada. The cameras, besides helping with rear visibility when backing up, allowed the driver to monitor the upper deck. Survivors later reported that the driver spent a significant amount of time looking at the screen as the bus left Fallowfield Station, which likely took his attention away from the road ahead. It's believed that he was checking to see if the passengers standing at the front could find seats upstairs and making sure no one was standing on the upper deck, which was against the rules. The report does not confirm whether the cyclist standing at the front of the bus, close to or forward of the line marking the driver's area, added a significant distraction, along with the passengers talking just behind the line. The final report was published on December 2, 2015, concluding that the cause of the accident was the driver's distraction from the video screen, which he needed to monitor as part of his job. The report found that he looked at the screen at such unfortunate times that he failed to notice the crossing's barriers and lights in time to stop. The seriousness of this distraction was highlighted by the fact that the bus was traveling at 42 mph just before the collision, exceeding the line's speed limit of 37 mph. The report made several recommendations to prevent similar incidents in the future. One suggestion was that the surveillance screen should go blank shortly after the bus starts moving, instead of providing a continuous feed throughout the journey. It also recommended that Transport Canada, the Canadian Traffic Authority, should urgently develop and implement safety standards for passenger buses. While it's understood that a collision with a train is extremely violent, the report noted that the bus's structural performance was unsatisfactory. Even the load-bearing frames were torn away with little resistance, causing the bus to remain in place rather than pivoting upon impact. As we wrap up this documentary, we're left with some crucial questions about safety, responsibility, and the impact of technology in our everyday lives. This tragic event shows us how a brief moment of distraction can lead to heartbreaking consequences. But it also makes us think about a bigger issue. How can we improve safety while supporting those who keep our public transportation running smoothly? What steps can we take to prevent something like this from happening again? We'd love to hear your thoughts in the comments below. Do you believe the recommendations in the report are enough? What changes would you suggest to make public transportation safer? Your opinion matters, so let's come together, discuss, and learn from this tragedy to help build a safer future for everyone.